Hello to the folks who are just hopping on. I'm going to give it one more minute, give a few more people a chance to hop on to the webinar and join us today, and then we'll get things kicked off. All right, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. This is automated conduit routing and how it is going to save your BIM team. And today's webinar is being presented by our Director of Pre-Sales and Customer Success, Amber Zinke. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will forward the recording to all registrants. You can also find all of the Evolve webinar recordings on the Evolve MEP YouTube channel, so make sure you're following us over there. If you have any questions, please submit them using the Q&A function in your Zoom toolbar, and we may have time to get to those at the end of the session. And if we don't, we will follow up with you via email. All right, and with that, I'm passing it over to Miss Amber to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Perfect. Well, we'll just dive right into it. So I'm going to share my screen here. So kind of, again, brief intro of me. My name is Amber. So I am Director of Pre-Sales and Customer Success. What that means is I oversee demos, customer success, support, and also implementation. So if there's anything I can ever do, by all means, you can always email me directly. Also, definitely utilize our amazing support team to ask any questions. So today we're going to be focusing on auto routing. So this is a new tool within our 7.4 update. You're going to find it right within our conduit data, and we have our auto routing. I did put together some examples here. So I have 3 examples that we're going to go through today, kind of talk about some of the things that are needed for the setup and some of the requirements that are needed for it. Just throwing it out there, this is a V1 of our auto routing. So if there is any feedback that you all have, by all means, you can email me directly, or any enhancements that you would want from it, or again, in just general feedback from it. There is an auto route settings that you can fine tune. So we'll first go through the settings, and then we'll talk about some of the things that you need to have established prior to utilizing the auto route. So with the settings themselves, first and foremost, you are going to see the glorious word project here. So these are project-based settings. So if you are familiar with Evolve, we have a lot of our settings are going to be project-based or user-based. So user-based settings are going to be for you and your workstation. Project-based settings are going to be applied to the project itself. So when we're looking at any of our amazing features, if you come in here and establish settings within here, it'll be saved to the route file itself, meaning whoever has access to an Evolve license goes into the settings, they'll also see the same settings. So kind of just throw that out there. Anytime you see this word project, that's what it really is entails. There is an option for the little question mark, which will bring you to the help docs. So with Evolve, we can bring up the help docs in multiple different ways. I can hover over the feature itself, hit F1 for those help docs. Also, within a lot of settings, there is that little question mark to bring up the help doc as well. And you can bring up the help docs typically within your resources, depending on if you happen to establish your shortcuts. You can a lot of times go into your help docs as well here. So with these settings here, we have our first one, which is distance from path. So this is that maximum distance between the equipment and the determined path that you've established. So I have it set as 100 feet. It's pretty good. You can fine tune that if you need to. The run spacing. So this is going to be what is established for the spacing of the conduit after it's been placed. So you can do equal spacing or edge to edge. When it comes to it, you can just place in what you're looking for here. You can always refine it, and we'll talk about kind of the things that you can do after you do the initial rough layout of this for the auto routing. We do have our space and alignment tool itself, where you can really refine some of the spacing that you're looking for, but this is a good starting point for what you're trying to establish. So this part of it, we're going to talk about it a few different times here. So we have our start and finish elements. So we have the element filter, which we'll talk about probably an example too, but this is going to be what it is going to be evaluating or looking for the actual routing itself. You can see right now we have our electrical equipment checked. So it's going to be evaluating electrical equipment to route to. The ID parameter, so this is going to be the parameter that it's looking for when it comes to that start and finish. And what I mean by start and finish, we'll talk about that shortly, but that is going to be what it's going to be evaluating. You can come in here and, again, modify that or fine tune if need be as well. And then we do also have that limit to current view. Just like majority of our settings, we have our export and import options where you can export out and import it the same settings into the next project itself. So the other things to be aware of is going to be the conduit run schedule and the path. So you can see we have some of our equipment laid out here. It's pretty basic panel boards, nothing too crazy here. And then this right here is our pathway. So where you can find the equipment, that would be within the family browser. So we have our utilities here, and there's going to be two different, I guess, sources of content. You have your family browser, and then you have your system families. For our family browser itself, you can click it. A lot of our utilities are going to be dockable stations. I like throwing all of mine on top of each other and creating these little tabs. So with the family browser itself, you can look for what you're looking for. So you can type in your equipment, just EQ, bring up your equipment so they can easily bring in the content. When it comes to the family browser, there's a few different things to be aware of it. We have a ton of families for you to have access to, but these families are not physically loaded into your project by default. So you will want to come in and bring in whatever you're looking for. Again, it's a simple search for what you're looking for, or you can utilize some of our other filtering down options to get what you're looking for as well. So you can bring in the equipment utilizing the family browser. And then for the pathway, that will be classified as a system family. System families, this would be classified as conduit, cable tray, busway, MC cable, flex, and then the pathway. So by default, again, we do not physically load any of this content into your project by default. You will want to come in here and load types. Let's see, perfect example. So busway, you can see right now it's not loaded in. So you have a pending action of unloaded. So if you wanted to, you want to come in here and make sure that this pathway is loaded in. So for the auto routing to work, we do need a pathway established. So you can place in the pathway multiple different ways. You can go right from that system family, select the pathway, and draw on the pathway itself. The pathway is classified as a duct. So if you have that turned off within certain view templates or certain views, just something to be aware of. So you will want to make sure that it is on. The pathway is giving the software a general idea of where you're wanting things to be routed. You're giving it a little bit of, it's a safety net for you to establish what you're looking for. The other way that the software needs to be directed or kind of some guidelines on what to place is going to be based on the conduit run schedule. So if you're new to Evolve, our conduit run schedule is great. I won't go crazy in depth on what it all entails, but give you a good insight on some of the things to be aware of. So with the conduit run schedule, this is where you can push in a ton of information into the conduit itself. This is where you can track your run ID, the start, the finish, the parallel quantity, so how many conduits are going from point A to point B, the system, if you want to group that or organize that, conduit standard, so the type of conduit, have wire fill, and then you have a ton of links that you can also keep track of. A lot of this will be automated. You can turn off a lot of the automation too, if you want to. And then with this as well, you can see that you have different options for colors associated with it. You can apply colors to your systems. We have options to turn those on. We have some of your wire schedule. So you have your wire specifications that you can establish for that wire fill, and then just simple wire sizes. Another great example of project-based settings. So you will want these established for the auto routing. This is what is going to tell the auto route how to do things. So it's going to be looking at, the run ID to push that information to, and then you have your start and your finish. So with the start and the finish, the auto routing is looking, you want your conduit coming from here to there, and you're going to have this many conduits and this type of conduit at this size. So that's why we have the conduit schedule. And then also you have one less thing to worry about because all that information is going to be pushed into the conduit and assigned to that conduit. Anyone who's new here, the conduit schedule, what makes this different than pushing that information into parameters is it stays sticky. So once you've established this information into your conduit, no matter what you do, so if you add to the run, if you place in some bends, make any modifications to that run, all this information will stay within the conduit itself. So kind of just some things to be aware of here. All right. So the physical action of the routing itself, or the how to do this, is we have our auto route. So once you have, the elements established, so the equipment placed in, you have identified the pathway itself. Now we can look at the auto routing to do it. So we can have our auto route. It says select the pathway. So this is the pathway I'm looking for. I can select that. Now it will bring up your auto route options, which is just entail the conduit schedule. Again, I have a very basic stuff, nothing too crazy within here. But you can see we can select whatever we're trying to analyze. And again, it's going to take everything here and place it based on here. So there is an option here. So once you've specified everything that you're trying to analyze, there is an extend to equipment. I'll leave that unchecked for just right now, and then we'll go back and recheck it. So once we've established this, we can press OK. And then it's placed it. I do have a 3D view here, just so y'all can see this. Let's take this here, this full pathway here. I can utilize my multi-run select, nothing too crazy, but let's select this whole thing. And let's delete it. So you can see it went from right here, and it again laid it out based on what we've established. There's a few little things to be aware of. So it's not going to be 100% perfect. So V1, like right here, it's a little bit tangled. We do now have tools within 7.4 as well to untangle this, which would be our element swap. I can come in here and select these two conduits, and then I'll swap it. Now looking nice and pretty. So you can see it did stop right here. So what we can do is we can Control Z this a few times, and let's redo that. And let's do extend to equipment and press OK. At that point, let's do that same process. Let's select all this here and let's delete this. And then now you can see it also dropped it down. Again, we can do our little element swap here. Get that going. Some of the questions as we go, I'll try to remember to look at these questions as we go here. So, do we have to use your families? So, for this, it does need to have whatever parameter you've identified it. So, right now we're looking for your equipment ID. So, again, just make sure whatever content that you are utilizing has whatever parameter that you're looking for. So, in this situation, equipment ID. So that's what the requirement is for that. So content-wise, as long as you have whatever you're trying to or specify, and then it falls within that category. So what I mean by that is when we're looking at that second example for this, it is looking for your specified categories here. So it does have to fall within this type of category here. So those are kind of just, I guess you could say, true requirements of the content that you do utilize is it falls within this category and it has whatever parameter that you've specified here. So the content itself, again, for conduits, again, that all is based on what you've identified, one, what's within the project and what you have established within your conduit run schedule here. So it's going to look for, like right now I have EMT. So it's kind of, again, looking for the conduit that I have within my project, looking for my EMC and placing in the conduit based on that. So great question for, can you do auto conduit size based on load for each equipment? As of right now, I mean, there's some probably back-ended things that we could look at with that, but it's going to be determining the size based on this right here, which is more of a fill in. This is information that you do bring in from Excel. So it could be some back-ended things that we can maybe look at with that, but it's a great question. I would want to look a little bit more into that, what could be possible for that. All right, great questions. If you have any more questions, roll them in, but I'll kind of move over to example number 2 here. So with example number 2 here, this would be kind of an example of an element or a family that does not by default have the equipment ID within here. So again, if you're new here to Evolve, our content is where you can make modifications to it. So you can edit these families. So if I needed to, I could always come up top here to edit my family and I could bring in that parameter information here. So just so you're aware of it, how I did that was I just brought in that parameter here. So from here, we brought in our equipment ID. With equipment ID, bringing that in, you can just come over here to a new parameter. You can do a shared parameter. And with the shared parameter, we do have our shared parameters within the resources of wherever you download Evolve. So we do give you the shared parameters for you to have access to. So all of these that you see here, you'll have access to. So again, we're just bringing in that equipment ID and we brought it in and we brought it in as an instance type because we want to change that per instance of this family here. So with that being said, again, you can make modifications to it. We just brought in that one singular parameter. There was a question on, will this webinar be available to watch later? Yes, it will. Pretty sure we'll put it on YouTube. We can always send it out as well if needed. So we brought in that parameter here. And let's say now we want to make sure that this is established. So with that being said, what we can do is when we're looking at our auto route cable here, we will want to make sure that we're looking at all categories. Because when we're looking at this little box here, our pull box is classified as conduit fitting, which right now, if I were to try to auto route, it would not show me that this is an option because we did not specify that we're looking to route to classify it as the conduit fitting. So what we can do is we can come over here to our auto route settings. define this and say I want to select all. So now it's looking at absolutely everything. And with this is A2, and this is just our JB1. So let me make sure that we brought this in. Now, so let's just add that. So we can do A2. The finish is going to be our JB1, I think. And then we can just say that this is run a D5. With this being said, we'll still make sure it's an EMT. So there is, I guess you could say like minimum requirements. You do need to say the start, the finish, the run ID, the parallel quantity, and we need to say the conduit type and the size. So again, those are all the requirements of this to make sure that you have it placed. You can see, so we did, again, example one, we did bring in some of that information. You can see we have now looking at the conference schedule, some of that information. We have the links auto-calculated for us. We have the total degree of bends associated with that. So kind of just some things to be aware of. You can kind of see when we're looking at this information, we have all that in there. And again, it stays sticky. So if I were to throw in a quick bend in here, again, finish this off. Maybe for coordination needs, we needed actually a bend. You can always come in here and put in, let's say, not an odd set. We'll put an offset in here and we'll put a set screw here. Bring that in. And again, we just auto routed. We specified what we're looking for. And you can see as we're making modifications, all that information stays sticky into the conduit itself. All right. So from there, when we're looking at specifying our pathway, it's quite similar. So we're looking at this pathway. We're just going to draw it. Again, you can draw it however you need to. We're drawing this. So we drew in the pathway. We made sure that that information is within the conference schedule. We have the end results that we're looking for. Let me make sure that this actually is JB1. Yep, JB1. That pop-up there that I am getting is because I have very few established within my workstation settings. One, this max is, if I had more than one row within my conference schedule, that would pop up on me. We have a lot of things within Evolve as, like, again, safety nets or things to make sure that you have everything nice and speedy fast. So something that we have in place there. So now if we do our auto routing again, we select the pathway. You can see this is the option here. So now it is visible because we've specified that we're also looking for conduit fittings. Extend equipment. I mean, we could select it and just delete it from that for that pull box here. So why not? We'll do extended equipment just so it goes down here. And let's press OK and see what happens here. That's okay. That's yelling at us just because it's looking for this right here. So we're looking at our 3D view, extended down. It's probably not what we're gonna want as an end result here, but by all means, at that point, just delete these fittings here and we can line it up and we're ready to go. So this could be something as a way of just trying to get the conduit to a room. You could do it as like a placeholder just to quickly route your conduit into all the various areas that you're looking for or whatever else. Again, once you are finished with that pathway, just delete it and it's looking nice here. So that would be kind of the next example. All right, let's look at some of the questions here. So as of right now, there is no like a clash detection put in place. So that's a great question about, is it going to avoid any like structure or avoid anything based on, again, again, analyzing things. As of right now with Evolve, the only like clash detection and clash adjustment is going to be for our hangers. Again, this is a V1 of it, so we can see what's possible there, but it's going to be looking at the pathway that you have, so you can have a little bit more control of it. So if you know a lot's going on in a certain area, don't necessarily establish the pathway through that. That's a great question. Okay, so we've got two questions about more so our maximum for the, or like having stacked conduit or multiple rows of your like tiers of conduit. So as of right now, it's going to be just establishing your conduit this way, kind of all in the same plane at that point. Again, great enhancements for this to be able to identify kind of what you're looking for at that point. So great questions. So the last one is going to be our example 3 here. It's a little bit more stuff going on here. Got our switchboard, we got a transformer, we got a panel here, got a lot going on. We've got a pull box, alert panel, so more stuff going on. So when we're looking at our cut run schedule, again, I did this very basic. We did that we got 10 to go to 11, 11 to go to 12, 12 to go to 13, and 13 go to 14. So now we're going to do our auto route, select auto path. I'm going to select, again, 10 going to 11, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to select all of these. And we're going to do extend to equipment. We're going to get some things yelling at us, and that's okay. We know it's going to yell at us. And that's just because of this guy right here. Yep. All right, now let's delete the pathway again here. And let's see what's going on. Did not click it. There we go. So this would be a prime example of it's not going to necessarily allow you to determine how it's going to be stacked or how it's going to be positioned. That will be where you want to come in here and start to play around with, again, the like swapping or utilizing our space and alignment to then play around with how it's being placed. So again, more things coming on with how you're able to establish how you want it to be, again, broken up here. You can see that it went from our 10. We need to do a little bit of controlling here, but it went from 10 to 11, little crisscross here, then 11 to our 12. And from our 12, we have that going down here to our pull box going down to here. So kind of established all the different points that it's looking for. It's all based on that pathway, and was able to lay this all out. Looking at the 3D view here. Now we're able to kind of come in here and start to adjust the elevation, start to play around with the spacing a little bit. So that's when we could utilize our spacing alignment to, again, adjust the elevation itself. If you have some hangers placed in here, we could also play around with that. So kind of utilizing our quick tools after you've placed in or utilized the auto routing at that point. All right, let's quick see if I can answer a few other ones. For auto routing pull boxes every 360-degree of bend, that's a great one. Again, more enhancements if we're looking or trying to analyze the pull boxes themselves. But again, if you're wanting to double check the auto routing itself on how it's established, because with the conduit run schedule, we do have that now where it's analyzing, again, the total degrees. We could utilize some of our utilities like our colorizer to then trigger and have the conduit itself turn red on you. So again, there could be almost things in place as like a QC after you've run the auto routing. You can see, maybe if conduits, are not set at elevation that you're looking for, or if you're trying to analyze the colors, things like that. All right. So I know we're right on time. So for any of the other questions that we see here, I will try to do a follow-up with any of your questions, answer them through an email or through a video, or we can always hop on a call as well. But thank you all so much for joining. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And if there's anything else that you all would want to see, by all means, you can either contact us to see a demo or to hop in a support call or to hop in a call and just to run through anything else with the auto routing. All right. Well, thank you all, and I hope you all have an amazing day.